Is it too soon to proclaim the end of the necktie? Hi there, everyone. It's Jeff, and this is Plain English, where we help you upgrade your English with stories about current events and trending topics. This month's theme is fashion. We talked about women's wardrobes last week. Today, we're talking about men's wardrobes, specifically the necktie. It's 2024. What is that thing still doing in our closets? Today, we'll review the history of the tie and we'll ask whether it's truly going away. We also have an English expression for you. That expression is close call. We'll do that after our main story. This is lesson number 711. JR is the producer. He has uploaded the full lesson to plainenglish.com/711. Now, someone asked me last month, why do I thank the producer in every episode? And the answer is, JR is indispensable. Without JR, there would be no Plain English. And if you only listen, then you would be forgiven for not knowing how much work he does. But if you go on plainenglish.com/711, and if you click around to all the exercises, if you see the translations, if you take the quiz, all that stuff, then you'll see how much work he really does. plainenglish.com/711 to see JR's handiwork. Before we start today's story, I'd just like to remind you that the podcast is just one part of how we can help you upgrade your English skills. At plainenglish.com, you can make faster progress with active learning strategies. You can take quizzes, do activities, listen to the fast version of the audio, watch video workshops, practice what you learn, and even join a live call with JR and me. It's all about helping you build your skills to become a better, more confident English speaker. Sound good? Go to plainenglish.com to start your free 14-day trial today. Now, let's jump into today's story. In men's fashion, there is no stronger symbol of the business world than the necktie. They wore them thin in the 60s, wide in the 80s. You saw ties on middle managers, factory supervisors, school principals, Wall Street bankers, government leaders, and lowly clerks. For decades, the one thing white-collar men all had in common was that their white collars were fastened with a tie. But a funny thing happened when men went back to the office after the pandemic. They left their ties at home. Now that's a bit of an exaggeration. Some people do still wear ties to work 5 days a week. Others wear them for important occasions. And even before the pandemic, men were wearing fewer and fewer ties to the office. But the trend is unmistakable. From business to media to politics, fewer men are wearing ties at work. And after the pandemic, a tie is an anomaly in most offices. Is it possible that this strange fashion accessory is going away for good? Let's take a step back and talk about why men wear ties to begin with. Ties, as we know them today, first became popular in France in the 1600s. Croatian soldiers fighting in France used scarves to tie their jackets closed. French King Louis XIII liked the look and made scarves mandatory for royal gatherings. So ties have their origin on the battlefield and in the royal court. As the use of ties spread from France to Britain to the rest of Europe and the United States and then the world, they became seen as a symbol of power and authority. A man wearing a tie is a gentleman deserving of respect and deference. But as neckties became mandatory in the middle-class workplace in the mid-20th century, they also became seen as a symbol of oppression. They can be uncomfortable and feel restricting. Shirts had long ago started coming with buttons, so a tie wasn't needed to keep a collar closed. Eventually, many men came to resent the fact that they were required to wear a pointless, uncomfortable accessory as they sat at their desks doing their work. After all, ties couldn't possibly convey power and authority when everyone was wearing one. Sales of neckties in the US peaked in the 1990s and have been declining ever since. The business world took its first steps toward relaxing tie requirements with casual Fridays, which at first meant men could leave their ties at home just one day a week. Then, dress codes got even more casual. Many companies stopped requiring ties altogether. Other times, men wore ties for important meetings, presentations, or special occasions. Fast forward to the late 2010s. The tie's decline was noticeable. Fashionable men opted for suits or blazers with open collars. Many who chose to wear ties picked interesting colors and patterns. The tie was not a power symbol, but an optional fashion accessory meant to complete an outfit. And it wasn't happening just at the workplace. Men wore fewer ties to the opera, to parties, and at fancy restaurants. It became more socially acceptable not to wear a tie to church, to funerals, and to weddings. Menswear stores took notice. Stores that sell suits and dress shirts changed their displays. They started carrying bolder, more interesting patterns. They sold ties that made a statement, not ties meant to blend in. And many stores started using their tie displays as part of the store decor. They covered a wall with rolled up ties, not to sell more ties, but to decorate the wall. Then came the pandemic, and the rules of workplace fashion went out the window. Men around the world seemed to agree. There was no point in wearing a tie at home in front of a webcam. And when people went back to the office, they found the the rules of workplace dress had changed. And for many people, the tie was just not part of the new dress code. Now, you still see people wearing ties. Some companies still require ties out of tradition. Other people wear ties for the classic old reason, to project power and respect. That's why you see Wall Street bankers, politicians, and newscasters in white shirts and traditional ties. But for most people making a salary, the tie is, thankfully, no longer a required part of their outfit. So is that it? Will ties go away eventually? Fashion experts say not so fast. Some say that men should keep 1 or 2 ties in their wardrobe for special occasions, weddings, graduations, things like that. Others say that neckties can be fashionable accessories to complete an interesting outfit. In 2023, just 1% of men's outfits in top fashion shows included a tie. But in 2024, 4% did. The tie can be the one part of an outfit that a man can control, can use to express some individuality in an otherwise homogeneous wardrobe. Hard as it is to believe, some men just like wearing them, like others enjoy wearing a vest or a watch. And it's not just men who like them. Women are getting in on the action too. Ties featured in women's outfits on some of the most glamorous runways this year. I never really had to wear a tie every single day. There were times when I'd have to wear one every day for a few weeks or a few months at a time. But for most of my working life, it was optional. I wore a tie to meetings or presentations, or if I were meeting someone more senior. Anymore, though, you kind of need a good reason to wear a tie. It used to be the worst thing that could happen is you're not wearing a tie and everyone else is wearing one. Now it's the opposite. If you're the one wearing a tie and everyone else is open collar, you just look weird, like you're trying too hard. Close call. Close call is an expression we use when a situation could have turned out badly, but just barely missed being a disaster. It can also describe a situation where the outcome is uncertain or extremely close. So those are two different meanings, and we'll talk about each of them today. But in both cases, close call is about the narrow margin between two very different outcomes. Let's start by using close call for when someone narrowly avoids a bad outcome. Imagine you're driving down the highway and suddenly another car swerves into your lane. You slam on the brakes just in time, and the other car misses you by inches. That's a classic example of a close call. You were just moments away from a serious accident, maybe just inches away from a serious accident, but you avoided it at the last second. It was a close call, but you didn't have the accident. And that's the key. With close call, the bad thing almost happens, but it doesn't happen. Here's another example, not quite as bad as a car crash. Think about a time when you almost missed a flight or a bus or a train or something. You arrive at the gate or at the platform just as the doors are about to close, but you do manage to get on with seconds to spare. In this case, the close call was almost missing your flight or almost missing your bus. That was the bad thing that almost happened. But remember, you got on. You did just barely get there on time, so the bad thing didn't happen. In the summer of 2024, there was a close call in the town of Butler, Pennsylvania. Former U.S. President Donald Trump was at a campaign rally outdoors. Trump turned his head to refer to a chart, and just at that moment, a bullet struck his ear. He was shot, and that is bad, but it was a minor wound to his ear. It could have been a lot worse. It would have been a lot worse if he hadn't turned his head. That was a close call. So you can see we use close call in tense situations like this, where things could have been much worse. When you use close call, you express relief that you avoided a much worse outcome. Now, another common use of the expression close call is when a decision is extremely difficult to make, and the outcome could easily go either way. We can use this in situations where the right answer isn't immediately clear. For example, imagine you're planning an event and trying to decide whether to hold it inside or outside. The weather forecast is uncertain. It could be sunny, but there's also a chance of rain. You weigh the pros and cons of each option. Indoors, you avoid the risk of bad weather, but outdoors offers a more beautiful setting. You don't know what the weather will be. After thinking about it carefully, you might say, I'm not sure if we should have it outside or not. It's a close call. And then you might ask someone else, what do you think? So when you describe this decision as a close call, you're saying that both options have strong points and it's hard to make the right decision. Now, in that example, we were talking about a decision that's difficult to make. You can also use close call when it's hard to see or hard to determine what happened. In sports, close call is frequently used when a referee or umpire has to make a tough judgment call based on what he or she saw. For example, in soccer, a referee might face a close call when determining whether a player was offside before scoring a goal. The players are so close that it's hard to tell if the attacker was ahead of the last defender. Now, the decision might require video review, and even then, the difference might be razor thin. Even when looking at a video replay, it might still be a close call because it's hard to determine what really happened. And that is all for us here at Plain English. This was lesson number 711. So that means JR has uploaded the full lesson to plainenglish.com/711. And as a reminder, the full lesson includes transcripts, built-in translations, the fast audio, quizzes, exercises, the chance to practice, and much more. plainenglish.com/711. And we will be back here again next Monday. We've got one more fashion episode coming up that is on next Thursday. We might do two. We are going to talk about the brand Abercrombie & Fitch. Now, if you're my age, you'll remember A and F as one thing. If you're my parents' age or my grandparents' age, you'll remember it as a much different thing. And if you're discovering the brand today, you'll know it as something else entirely. So that's coming up next Thursday. So we've got at least one, maybe two more fashion episodes left this month. But on Monday, we'll be back with a current events topic. See you then. Listen up if you speak Spanish, Portuguese, Chinese, German, French, Italian, Japanese, Polish, or Turkish. One of the most frustrating things about listening and reading in a second language is being confused by unfamiliar words or phrases. When you listen to Plain English, or when you read the transcript, you probably encounter some words you don't know. When that happens, you have a few options. You can stop the audio, go look up the definition, then return to the episode, find your place, and press play again, but that's exhausting. Or you can just skip it and be confused. That's no fun either. But what if you could see the translation of the word into your language instantly without having to stop the audio, without having to look anything up? Well, you can at plainenglish.com. For each episode, we translate about 100 words and phrases from English to 9 languages: Spanish, Portuguese, Chinese, German, French, Italian, Japanese, Polish, and Turkish. And we highlight those words in blue. All you have to do is hover your mouse over the highlighted word, and you'll see the translation instantly. It works great on mobile too. It really makes listening a lot more satisfying, and it's a great way to expand your vocabulary in English. The best way to see these translations is to sign up for a free 14-day trial at plainenglish.com. During your trial, you can read as many transcripts as you like, all with the translations into your language. So sign up for your free trial today at plainenglish.com.